The flower shop. I have a small flower shop. It is old, but beautiful. The walls are white and the door is brown. Inside there are many flowers. Roses, lilies, daisies, and tulips. The air smells sweet and fresh. People come to buy flowers every day. Some people are happy, some people are sad. Flowers can make a bad day better. Flowers can bring hope and joy. Every morning I open the shop early. I water the plants carefully. I clean the floor and windows. I put fresh flowers on the table. I love my shop very much. It is quiet and peaceful. The flowers do not talk, but they make me happy. I like to watch people when they choose flowers. A man buys red roses for his wife. A child picks a yellow flower for his mother. An old woman smells the white lilies and smiles. Every flower has a story and a meaning. One morning I saw a girl outside. She stood near the shop door. She did not smile at all. She looked tired and lost. Her clothes were simple and old. Her eyes were dark and sad. She did not move for a long time. She just looked at the flowers. I watched her from inside. She was young but looked lonely. I wondered what she was thinking. I walked outside slowly. The air was cold and dry. "Do you like flowers?" I asked her. She looked at me in silence. She did not answer for a moment. She looked at the roses carefully. Her hands were in her pockets. The wind moved her dark hair. I waited for her to speak. After a long time, she said, "Yes, I do." Her voice was quiet and soft. I smiled warmly at her. "Come inside," I said kindly. She looked at me again. Then she followed me into the shop. The warm air touched her face gently. She looked around with quiet eyes. She did not touch anything at all. She just looked at the flowers. Her eyes moved slowly from one flower to another. She saw the pink roses. She saw the white lilies and the small violets near the window. Her hands were still in her pockets. I picked up a pink rose. "This is for you," I said with a smile. She looked at the rose for a moment. She did not take it immediately. "I have no money," she said softly. I shook my head and smiled. "It is a gift," I said warmly. Slowly she took the rose in her hands. She held it carefully and gently. She looked at it for a long time in silence. She smelled the rose quietly. Her eyes looked softer now. She did not smile, but she did not look so tired anymore. She looked around the shop again. This time she stepped closer to the flowers. She touched the petals of a white lily. She looked at the small daisies on the table. She was still quiet, but something was different. Maybe she liked the flowers. Maybe she felt a little better. She stood in my shop, holding the pink rose. She did not speak much. She looked at the flowers, but she did not smile. Her fingers touched the petals softly. She smelled the rose again, as if she wanted to remember its scent. The shop was warm and quiet. Outside, the wind was cold and strong. I watched her carefully. She looked tired, but there was something in her eyes, something I could not understand yet. I walked to the counter and picked up a small watering can. "I water the flowers every morning," I said. My voice broke the silence. She turned her head slightly. "Do you want to help?" I asked. She hesitated for a moment, then she nodded slowly. I handed her the watering can. She took it with both hands. Her fingers were thin and pale. She looked down at the can, then at the flowers. She stepped closer to the plants. She started watering the violets first. The water touched the soil softly. She moved carefully, as if she was afraid to hurt the flowers. She did not rush. She took her time with each plant. I watched her from behind the counter. She was quiet, but she was not lost in thought anymore. She focused on the flowers. She moved to the lilies next, then the daisies. She touched each petal with care. I sat down on a wooden chair near the window. Flowers need love, I said. If you take care of them, they grow strong. She did not answer, but I saw her listening. She poured water on a rose bush. A few drops fell on her fingers. She wiped her hands on her coat. Then she looked at me. "Why do you have a flower shop?" she asked. Her voice was still soft, but there was curiosity in it. I smiled at her question. "Because I love flowers," I said. "They are quiet, but they say so much. They can make people happy. They can bring peace. When I was young, I worked in a big city. It was loud, busy, and cold. I was always tired. But one day I saw a small flower shop. I walked inside, and suddenly I felt calm. The colors, the smell, the quiet. I knew I wanted a place like that. So I left the city and opened this shop." She listened without moving. Her hands held the empty watering can. She looked at the flowers again. "I think flowers are nice," she said after a long pause. It was not a big sentence, but it was something. She put the watering can down on the floor. Then she touched the petals of a yellow daisy. "They are soft," she said quietly. I nodded. "Yes, they are." The wind outside made the windows shake slightly. The street was empty now. The sun was hidden behind the clouds. I looked at the girl again. She still looked tired, but she did not look lost anymore. Not completely. Maybe, just maybe, she was starting to feel something different. Something small, but important. The girl stood near the table of flowers. Her fingers touched the petals of the yellow daisy again. She moved slowly, as if she was thinking about something. The pink rose I gave her was still in her other hand. She did not look at it, but she held it tightly. Outside, the wind was getting stronger. The sky was gray. It looked like rain was coming soon. I walked to the counter and started wrapping a bouquet. The paper made a soft sound as I folded it. I looked at the girl. She was still touching the flowers. "Do you have a name?" I asked gently. She hesitated. Then she nodded. "Sarah," she said. Her voice was quiet but clear. I smiled. "Nice to meet you, Sarah," I said. "My name is Thomas." She looked at me for a moment, then nodded again. I finished wrapping the bouquet and placed it on the counter. "Flowers have names, too," I said. "Do you know them?" She shook her head. I pointed at the daisies. "These are daisies. They are small, but strong." Then I pointed at the lilies. "These are lilies. They smell sweet." She looked at the flowers as I spoke. "And these," I said, pointing at the roses, "are roses. Some people say they mean love." Sarah's fingers touched the petals of a white rose. "They are soft," she said again. For a moment there was only silence. The shop was warm and the air smelled fresh. Sarah looked at the flowers and I looked at her. There was something about her, something quiet, something heavy. I could see it in her eyes. She was not just tired. She was carrying something inside her, something she did not say. I walked to a small wooden shelf near the window. There were empty flower pots there. I picked one up and placed it on the table. Then I brought a small bag of soil. "Do you want to plant a flower?" I asked. Sarah looked at the pot, then at me. She did not answer right away, but after a few seconds she gave a small nod. I handed her the pot and the soil. She took them carefully. She poured the soil into the pot, moving slowly. Her hands were gentle. I watched as she made a small hole in the center. I brought a tiny green plant from the back of the shop. "This is a violet," I said. "It will grow small purple flowers." I placed the plant in her hand. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she put it in the soil. She pressed the dirt around it carefully. I handed her the watering can. She poured water over the soil, just enough to make it damp. Then she placed the pot near the window. The light outside was soft and gray. Sarah stared at the small plant. "It looks weak," she said. "Will it grow?" I nodded. "Yes," I said. "If you take care of it, it will grow strong." She touched the leaves gently. "Maybe," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it was not empty. The wind outside pushed against the window. A few raindrops touched the glass. Sarah did not move. She kept looking at the small plant. I did not say anything. I let the silence stay. Some things do not need words. Some things grow slowly, like flowers, like people. Rain started falling outside. The drops tapped softly against the window. The sky was gray, but the shop was warm. The scent of flowers filled the air. Sarah stood near the small plant she had just potted. Her fingers brushed against its tiny leaves. She was quiet, lost in thought. The pink rose I had given her was still in her other hand. She had not let go of it. I walked to the back of the shop and returned with a small cloth. "Here," I said, handing it to her. "Your hands are dirty." She looked at her fingers, now covered in soil. She took the cloth and wiped them carefully. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was soft, but clearer than before. She folded the cloth neatly and placed it on the counter. I picked up a wooden crate filled with fresh flowers. "I need to make new bouquets," I said. "Would you like to help?" Sarah hesitated. Then, slowly, she nodded. I placed the crate on the table. "We will start with these," I said, taking out a few white lilies. Sarah watched closely. She reached into the crate and picked up a daisy. Her fingers touched the petals, feeling their softness. I showed her how to arrange the flowers. "First, we choose a few different kinds," I said, placing a lily, a rose, and a daisy together. Then we tie them with a ribbon. Then Sarah picked up a rose and added it to the bouquet. She was careful, watching how I moved. She did not speak, but I could see that she was learning. As we worked, the shop remained quiet except for the sound of the rain. Sarah tied a ribbon around a bouquet. Her fingers moved slowly but surely. "Good," I said. "You have a steady hand." She looked at the bouquet she had made. It was simple, but it was beautiful. "It looks nice," she said quietly. I nodded. "Yes, it does." Sarah placed the finished bouquet on the counter. She reached for another flower. This time she did not hesitate. She picked up a tulip and turned it in her hands. "Where do you get these flowers?" she asked suddenly. It was the first time she had asked me a question. I smiled. "Some come from a farm outside the city," I said. "Some I grow in the back of the shop." She looked toward the back door. "You grow them?" she asked. I nodded. "Would you like to see?" For a moment, she did not answer. Then she put down the tulip and followed me to the back of the shop. I opened the door and we stepped outside. The rain had slowed, but the air was cool and fresh. Behind the shop was a small garden. There were rows of plants, some in pots, some in the ground. Green leaves glistened with raindrops. Sarah stepped closer, looking at them. "These are my favorite," I said, pointing to a row of violets. "They take time to grow, but they are strong." Sarah crouched down and touched one of the leaves. "They are small," she said, "but they look healthy." I picked up a small trowel from the ground. "Gardening takes patience," I said. "Flowers do not grow in a day. But if you care for them, they become something beautiful." Sarah was quiet. She touched the damp soil with her fingers. "Maybe I can help," she said at last. Her voice was still soft, but there was something different in it now. I nodded. "I would like that," I said. The sky remained gray, but the rain had stopped. Drops of water clung to the leaves, shining in the soft light. Sarah stood up and looked around the garden. She still looked tired, but her eyes were different now. There was something in them, a small change, like the first sign of a flower beginning to bloom. The next day, Sarah came to the shop early. She walked straight to the flowers, not needing any help. She picked up the watering can and started watering the plants with care. Her movements were slow but confident. She had learned so much since she first came. She didn't seem lost anymore. The flowers seemed to respond to her touch, their petals brightening as she watered them. I watched her for a moment, then walked over to the counter. I handed her a bouquet of roses. "Can you wrap these for the customer?" I asked. She nodded without saying a word. Her hands were steady now as she wrapped the flowers in soft paper, taking her time to make sure everything was perfect. When she finished, she placed the bouquet on the counter. She looked up at me. "What's next?" she asked, her voice calm. I smiled. "Now we wait for more customers," I said. She nodded and smiled a little. It was small, but it was a real smile. She had changed in the time she had been here. As the day went on, Sarah worked quietly. She arranged flowers, watered plants, and wrapped bouquets for customers. There was no hesitation in her movements anymore. She was focused and calm. I could see how much she had grown. She no longer seemed sad or lost. There was a peacefulness in her now. Later in the day, she stood by the window, looking at the small violet she had planted. It was growing stronger, its leaves reaching toward the light. "It's growing," she said softly. I walked over and stood beside her. Just like you, I said. She looked at me, her eyes bright. Sarah smiled and nodded. I like it here, she said. Her voice was steady, full of meaning. I smiled back. I'm glad you do, I said. The shop felt warmer with her there, like it had found a new kind of peace. Thank you all for your time and attention today. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more such interesting stories. Take care, everyone.